New Orleans Saints, Seattle Seahawks betting preview. Ladies and gentlemen, was trying to make some money here. Last game, we did great. We had the Alvin Kamara overs, Chris Olave overs, Juwan Johnson overs, Christian McCaffrey overs. We were all over the place, so it should have been a solid game for you if you followed the betting preview. So we're going to try and win some more money. And good news, I feel like we got the game script again. All right, the actual side across the board painted Saints plus 7.5. We still don't know. We still don't know right now who's going to be playing. Chase Young's not going to play. We know that. But I don't know what's going to happen with the guards. I don't know what's going to happen to Talise Fuaga. You never know until the first snap. So be aware of that. Now, because of that, it's hard for me to tell you take 7.5 or whatever. If Fuaga doesn't play, like, it's a huge issue, right? But in general, I think it's 7.5. Saints plus 7.5 or nothing. I don't think you could take Seattle minus 7.5. So if I was playing the side, I would take the Saints plus 7.5. Seattle's a decent teaser leg. You could tease them down. They're in that Wong teaser category. So maybe you're interested there. But what I'm really interested in is the prop bets. Okay, so we're going to take a look at some props here. Now, here's the deal. Right now, Seattle's got some injuries. Okay, Zach Charbonnet, Nick Emmanwori, Julian Love, and Devin Witherspoon. 3 players in the secondary, all right? Now, if we follow the game script, we would think the Saints will be down, okay? I'm not saying that I'm hoping they'll be down, whatever, but they're a 7.5-point dog, okay? The game script is saying they're going to be down. So if they're going to be down, and we know the Saints are willing to throw the ball, and we know Seattle has a good interior defensive line, and we know the Saints have a bad interior offensive line that could be even worse. If there's injuries, you got to move some people around. Then we know the Saints are going to throw the football. Okay, that's their easiest path to success. Now, what do we also know? We also know who Spencer Rattler likes to throw the ball to. Chris Olave, Juwan Johnson. Ladies and gentlemen, they keep hanging Juwan Johnson over receptions at 3.5 and 4.5. We're going to keep playing him, okay? Until the books move him up appropriately, we're going to keep hitting it. They dropped a 4.5 on us. We're going to play it, all right? Juwan Johnson, same thing. I'm explaining this again. The laddering system works. I laddered Devon Achane on Thursday night. Came out smelling like roses. What you do is you take Juwan Johnson over 4.5 receptions, okay? That's your main bet. Let's just pretend $50 is your unit size. So you do $50, Juwan Johnson over 4.5. Then you lower the limits. So now let's say you go 25, and you'll do $25 on Juwan Johnson plus 5. Then you'll do Juwan Johnson 6, $25. Now you may say, okay, now we're getting into the like less likely situation, whatever. So you may drop it again to $10. Then you go 7 plus 10, 8, 10, 9, 10, 10, 10. That's what you do. Obviously, if you get all of them, then you're absolutely rolling in it. But even if you just get to like 7, you've hit the $50 original bet. You've hit a $25 bet on plus 6, which is plus 153, and another whatever bet on plus 277. So the $10 on 8, 9, and 10 don't even matter. All right. So I'm hammering Juwan Johnson over 4.5. Similar with Chris Olave. All right, Chris Olave is a go-to guy. Now, if you don't want to ladder him, that's fine, but I think you just keep playing these guys. Like, you just keep playing them until they do something different. Alvin Kamara, same thing. He gets, let's take a look. He gets 6 catches game 2, and he got 3? I think it was 3 in the first week. 2. Okay, so he's averaging 4, but you can talk about the ramp up or whatever. So where am I? Where's the games? Here we are. So Alvin Kamara over 3.5. I think, boom, again, you play that. So Alvin Kamara over receptions, Juwan Johnson over receptions, potentially ladder Juwan Johnson, Chris Olave over receptions. All right. Flip side, Zach Charbonnet's hurt. Okay. Well, if we assume Seattle will be up and we assume that they want to run the football, which they do, then you might want to look at Kenneth Walker rush attempts at 18.5. 18.5 is a lot. You need a lot to go right there, but potentially you could look there if you think the Seahawks are going to beat the Saints. Also, Saints have not been great. Well, they've been okay defensively, but they've been bad on third downs. Their secondary is the weakest part of this defense. Sam Darnold loves, and I mean freaking loves, throwing the ball to JSN. Okay, let's take a look here. Loves it. Through 2 games, okay, JSN has 23 targets. Right, that's what are we doing here? We're doing some quick math. We're doing 11 and a half, somewhere in there. 11 and a half targets a game, 17 receptions, 8.5 receptions a game, okay? And that includes a blowout in Pittsburgh. That also includes Pittsburgh, who's got Jalen Ramsey. So I keep getting thrown off here. So I like, if you're going to target someone in Seattle, it's JSN. And I would look at his receptions. I like receptions way more than yards because yards can get kind of wonky. Receptions is nice and clean. It's either a reception or it's not a reception, right? So JSN over 6.5. The only issue here is, do they need to throw the football? That's what you have to ask yourself. If you think the Saints are going to be competitive, if you think the Saints are going to be in this game, if you think the Saints are going to win, then this is what you want to look at. You want to look at JSN over 6.5. If I knew the game script and you told me the Saints did win this game, I would ladder JSN. Because if Sam Darnold's going to be throwing, this is what he's going to be doing. Okay? Now, I can't recommend that because the game script doesn't call for it. But, you know. Another one. Now, this one's a little bit more of like a Saints kind of thing. Do they have interceptions on here? Yeah. Sam Darnold to throw an interception is interesting because that's the Saints' way to win the game, is forcing Sam Darnold to turn the ball over. Now, risky business for sure, but I don't hate the idea of Sam Darnold to throw an interception here because that is how the Saints are going to win, is if they turn Sam Darnold over and force him to make some mistakes. So he's turnover prone anyways. Don't hate that. Same thing here. Interceptions over a half, aka 1, plus 108 for Sam Darnold, minus 145 for Spencer Rattler. Rattler attempts you could look at too. If you think that the Saints are going to be losing, then if you think the Saints are going to be losing, you believe Spencer Rattler will be throwing the football. That's just how it's going to be. You know that's what they do when they're down, especially if they can't run. You would think they can't run because of what I just mentioned about the weak Saints offensive line interior and very good interior defensive line of the Seattle Seahawks, and the weakened secondary of the Seahawks, which makes it even more beneficial for the Saints to throw. Rattler had 46 attempts against the Cards, 34 attempts against the 49ers. He is listed at, 32? Pass attempt? 32 and a half, all right? So he's gone over that both games. He's averaging 40 attempts a game. If you think they're going to be down, I think you have to play this as well. You have to play Spencer Rattler over attempts here, okay? Now, there's a lot of other stuff, obviously, you can get involved in. And this is DraftKings, so shop around. Don't take, Spencer Rattler over 32 and a half attempts if there's a 31 and a half out there. Find the best number. People ask me all the time, what do I use to bet? DraftKings, FanDuel, BetMGM, BetRivers, Caesars, Bet365, Fanatics. You got to have them all. Okay, it's like Pokemon. Have all of them. Search for the best number. This is BetStamp. BetStamp, you can quickly see the best numbers. Like if you go here, then you go to player props, you go to Chris Olave, you go to receptions. He's 5.5. If you want the over, the best odds are DraftKings, plus 109. So here, you would take 5.5 at DraftKings, plus 109. If you were doing Juwan Johnson, right? Juwan Johnson receptions, 4.5 across the board, plus 100 at ESPN Bet is the best odds. Easy peasy. Sam Darnold to throw an interception, boom, over a half across the board, plus 125 at ESPN Bet, you would do that. Why would you take plus 100 at Caesars if you can do plus 125 at ESPN Bet? All right, so shop around, ladies and gentlemen. So that's how I'm looking at this game. That's how I'm attacking this game. 30. Okay, so great example. 30. Look at the difference. You got 34 and a half on the pass attempts at Caesars, 31 and a half at Fanatics. So 31.5 Spencer Rattler pass attempts at Fanatics, I think is a fantastic bet. I mean, this if he doesn't have 31, the only way he doesn't have 31.5 pass attempts, well, two ways. The Saints win the game, and they're leading the entire game, and they're running the football, or Seattle is just grinding clock, dominating the game. Saints can't get the ball back, and Rattler's never on the field. That's it. Okay. 31.5 at Fanatics is strong. That's a good number. This is a good example, though. Like, don't just take 34.5 because you got some money on Caesars. Get that out of there. Send it over to Fanatics. Boom, 31.5. Okay, so be smart. Be smart. This kind of stuff matters whenever a winning bettor is only trying to go whatever it is, 54%. Okay, so that's how I'm looking at it. I like to handicap games like this with. Oh, let's look at the odd board. So this game opened up at 7. There's been some steam-ish to 7.5. Okay, if we look at the betting splits, 69% of the tickets have been on Seattle. Only 51% of the moolah, only 51% of the money. So that's pretty good, actually. It's pretty good that it's 50-50 money, but 70-30 tickets. That means the public, Joe Public, is taking Seattle all day, but the actual money is way more 50-50. Okay, so there's a little bit of Saints love in the market, which we know. And then you can also factor in like teaser liability, stuff like that. But that's an advanced masterclass. We won't do all that. So little bit of steam here. Again, that probably is teaser liability moving this around a little bit. But 50-50 in the market, which is a good sign for the Saints. So that's how I'm doing it. I think the Saints are just one of those teams where they're telling you what they're going to do every week. Especially if they're losing, especially if they can't run the football. It's going to be Juwan Johnson, Chris Olave, and a lot of that. And it's one of those things where, like, until they stop doing it and show you, like, hey, we're willing to give Rashid Shaheed 10 catches. We're willing to give whoever some work. But until they prove it, you have to assume Spencer Rattler's going to throw the ball 40 times, and a majority of that share is going to go to Chris Olave and Juwan Johnson. So, and Juwan Johnson... Not to mention, man, talk about, so we were sitting in the dome before the game, and we decided to do this like seven reception parlay. So it was Christian McCaffrey to have 7 receptions, Chris Olave to have 7 receptions, Juwan Johnson to have 7 receptions, and I added the Saints to win the game. It paid like $50 to win like 30,000. It was crazy. Chris Olave lands on 6, I think, and he would have had 7 if he would have saw the ball on 3rd and 6 on the first possession where it dumps off his body, or if he would have caught the touchdown. Juwan Johnson landed on 5 and had 2. Wait, right? I think he landed on 5 and he had 2 drops. Let's see. I think he landed on 5 and had 2 drops. Let's see here. Let's see. Real quick. Yeah, he landed on 5 and had 2 drops, so that equals 7. And then Christian McCaffrey had 6, and he had a drop, which equals 7. And then, of course, the Saints had a chance to win the game or whatever. So it was one of those things where the entire parlay missed. Like, no one landed on 7 catches, but every single player, if they would have just caught the balls thrown to them, would have had 7. And then it would have been the Saints' last drive would have been to finish the parlay and win like $30,000. It would have been insane. But it was a crazy. It's one of those things where it's like, you're so right, you're wrong. Like, none of them had 7, but all of them should have had 7. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you weren't close, but you were as close as possible. It's crazy stuff. That's gambling for you. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, that's how I'm betting the game. I would just hammer these these receiving props. The Rattler 31.5 at Fanatics, I like. If you want to play the Saints money line just to play it, just have something in the game. It is what it is. I don't really play big dogs like that. Not my thing, but and if you're looking for good teaser options and you want to tease the Seahawks down to 1.5, wouldn't blame you. Okay. A couple other good teaser options out there. New England, tease them up to 8, tease Seattle down to 1.5. That's nicey. The Packers could tease them down to 1.5 as well. Nicey. What else we got here? We've got, it's pretty much about it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, how are you betting this game? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.